Hello, I'm Donald Leggett, and welcome to the latest Focus IR CEO interview. I'm joined by Stefan Bernstein, the CEO of GreenRoc Mining, and Stefan's here to talk us through a change in the Greenlandic mining law, which means that their Amitsoq graphite mine will be in production many months sooner than expected. Greetings, Stefan.
Hello, Don.
Now, if you could talk us through the recent positive regulatory changes in Greenlandic mining law for us, please. Put it in context for us.
Yes. Okay. So it is actually a major change in the mining law in the way that it's administered, because beforehand you would have to accomplish both your environmental and social impact assessment, conclude your impact benefit agreement before you could go on and submit your application for exploitation. And before you have your exploitation permit, you can't start raising the finance to go into construction, obviously. Now that was a situation before this change. After January 1st, 2024, the change is now that you can apply for your exploitation permit much earlier in the process. That is already at a time where you're still having your environmental and social impact assessments ongoing, and those take years. They can easily take 2 or 3 years to conduct and conclude. And thus you can have an exploitation permit at hand while your studies are still ongoing.
So this is a big change. Operating these in parallel process is a big deal. So how will those changes actually affect GreenRoc? Presumably hugely beneficially for you.
It is. I think today one of the greatest uncertainties amongst exploration companies, development companies, and also investors is, of course, will you eventually be able to obtain your mining permit and actually be able to extract what you are looking for and developing? And with your exploitation permit at hand, it's only basically a technical question to perform these environmental and social impact assessments and so forth before you can actually start your construction work.
So getting the exploitation license in place is going to seriously de-risk the project.
Absolutely, absolutely. Don't forget that in many countries, the mining or the exploitation permit is the single most time-consuming element in the whole process of from your exploration till your end opening the mine.
Okay. So how much has this law change accelerated your original plans, and when do you now hope to be in a position to apply for and ultimately receive your exploitation license?
So I think that it will accelerate our project by several months, if not a year or so. We expect to be able to file our application for exploitation already by the end of this first half of 2024. And I'm hopeful also that we'll be able to receive our permit before the end of this year.
Okay. And to what extent does it benefit the funding case for the world-class graphite project at Amitsoq? The economics. How does it affect the economics?
Well, I mean, obviously, it takes away most of the uncertainties, the risk, you could say. We've already reduced the technical risk, the geological risk tremendously by the drilling phases and also the preliminary economic assessment that we released last fall. Now, the political risk, can you obtain your permit, is obviously something that is next on the line after you made your discovery. And eliminating that is basically taking the majority of the risk away.
So what happens next for GreenRoc? Once you apply for your exploitation license, you submit your license. What comes next?
So we'll conclude then the environmental and social impact assessments, go on to the impact benefit agreement, and then we can also start our pre-feasibility study, leading on to the definitive feasibility study, which we expect to conduct in 2025, and then start construction, raising the capital and start construction in 2026.
Okay. Would you describe Greenland as a positive mining jurisdiction today? Is it favourable for miners? And to what extent are these changes positive for the mining sector in Greenland as a whole over in the medium term?
Yes, I think definitely that it's a very positive signal. Greenland is a great place for mining and the mineral extractive industries, because it has a very beneficial geology, very diverse geology. There's certainly potential for a lot of different mineral commodities. And also the Greenland government and the population is very much in favor of establishing a solid mineral industry in the country. So I see this law change also as one of the many signs that the Greenland government is ready to help the mineral industry.
There aren't actually so many extraction licenses. Not so many have been granted in Greenland, though. Despite that, I think off camera you were saying 7. You thought, so there aren't too many exploitation licenses being granted.
Yes. So the number of exploitation permits that are already issued reflects also the number of relatively advanced projects, which is not very high considering the size of the country. But then on the other hand, you could say that certainly Greenland is vastly underexplored. So there's definitely room for a lot more discoveries.
And how many exploitation licenses? Is it 7?
It's around 7. I can't.
Around that. Okay. So my final question, Stefan, you're applying to extend the license to include the final areas of significant graphite mineralization. What studies have you already done in that area? And do you think it will eventually extend the mine life?
Okay, so we haven't actually conducted any work in those areas that we're now applying for. It's a piece of land that was held by another license holder up till fairly recently, and it was relinquished just a few weeks ago. And we then submitted our application to cover that ground also and included one of our existing licenses. And the reason we did that is that it's one of the last remaining pieces of the land that contains high-grade graphite mineralizations and is part of the Nanortalik graphite district.
And if you found anything there, if you found any graphite there, would you process it through the Amitsoq mine?
So that's certainly a possibility. We'll have to look at several of these very high-grade additional occurrences of graphite around in order to determine whether we want to set up any additional mining activities in some of those deposits. But certainly, I mean, there's a graphite there to sustain considerable mining in those satellite deposits.
Stefan Bernstein, CEO of GreenRoc Mining, thank you so much for updating us on this change in the Greenlandic mining laws and much more besides. For more company information and to access the company bulletin board, please go to the GreenRoc pages on London South East. And meanwhile, do follow us on Twitter. That's @_FocusIR_ and @London South East, or register on London South East YouTube to receive alerts to our next GreenRoc interview. As ever, thank you so much for watching.